Greetings. I am Pastor Harris. Welcome to this edition of Understanding with Pastor Harris. If this is your first video of watching Understanding, I would ask you to go back and start with video number 20, 21, 22, and today's video are a continuation of the magnificent love that God has for each and every one of us. It's so important for you to understand. In fact, I want to give you a story today which explains it all into detail. The story comes from a book in the Bible called Luke. It's in the New Testament. And in Luke, the 15th chapter, verses 11 through 32, there's a story about a young man who was raised in a very good environment by a very good family with very good standards. He was taught right from wrong. He knew good and bad and which to do and which to walk away from. He was taught that all of his life. But like many, when he got to the age where he wanted to do his own thing, he left home and he went far away where he could follow his own pleasures and his own desires, do what he wanted to do. And that's how he lived for many years, doing all that he wanted to do, including those things he knew were wrong, things that he knew were bad. He did them until the point where they almost destroyed his life. He finally found himself at the bottom of the pit. He couldn't go any further down. And he finally got himself up and went back home. Let me jump through the story to tell you that his father was out working one day, and after all these years, he saw something, and he knew immediately it was his son. He didn't even see his face, but he knew it was his son. And before he got to the house, he sent out a command to everybody, prepare for a great celebration. My son is coming home. And when his son got there to his father face to face, this is the great thing. There were no questions. There was no condemnation. No, you had no business leaving. Look at you now. What have you been through? You knew better. None of that condemnation. In fact, all the father did was wrapped his arms of love around his son, gave him the best, and put him right back to where he was in his place with the family. That's the closest example that we have to understanding the magnificent love of God. God knows each and every one of us. And when we come to God, it makes no difference where that starting place was, whether it was in a position where we never knew God, or whether we've known and been trying to worship God for years, or some of us who know that we're living totally out of the bounds of God's wishes. God has no condemnation for you. When you come home, God doesn't say anything other than, welcome. I love you so much. You see, this is what we don't really understand about God. He may not like what we do, or what we've done, or what we're doing now, or where we are, but he still loves us. He loves us from the start. The Bible tells us, you got to go back and look at the other videos, that he knew us in our mother's womb. He knows the number of hairs on our head. That's how God personally loves you and me. And when we come to God, there's no condemnation. All he gives us is love. And when we ask him for forgiveness, but we have a problem with that. You see, we've done wrong, and in our hearts, we knew that we were doing some things that weren't right, and we just have a hard time trying to ask God to forgive us. We knew we were doing wrong when we did it, and we know God knows it. Nobody else does, but God knows it. So we have a problem coming to God, number one. And when we do ask him to forgive us, many understand that he does because he's true to his word, but we still have this condemnation, this personal condemnation that is not through and through and through, and that we might have to spend some time working our way back to a good position with God. That's personal condemnation. And many of us have that problem because we don't understand that, like that father, God's love for us never changes. That's why you've got to read a text. And I encourage you to read every one of these texts that I give you today. You got to read the text in Romans, the 8th chapter, verse 31 through 39. Most important, you must read that for yourself. I'll tell you what it says. It says that nothing can separate you from God. Oh, you got to read it for yourself. That's how God's love is. But some of you still say, even after you read that, Pastor, you don't know me. You don't know my life. You don't know the terrible things that I have done. Some of you say, Pastor, you don't know the things that have happened to me, the vile and terrible things that have happened to me. And I know my life is ruined and spoiled. And God may have me, but he'll never smile upon me. You are wrong. Let me give you a couple examples directly from the Bible. There was a man in the Bible called Saul. And the Bible teaches us that Saul was a terrible man. He persecuted meaning he did terrible things to people who love God, who worship God, who believed in God. He did terrible, terrible things to them. But he had a conversion experience and he came to God. And his life changed so much that his name was changed from Saul to Paul. Ever heard of Paul? He was what the Bible and the Christian world understands as the greatest evangelist, the greatest person who has spread the word of God and his love around the world. He's possibly written more books about God and his love than anybody else. Did Paul have a good life all the way? No, he did not. He did terrible things. There's another one too. This man was considered a man after God's own heart. His name was David. He deliberately killed a man. Deliberately. He lived a life of sexual immorality for years, but he had a relationship with God, and he confessed to God, and God forgave him and blessed him. What could you have done that is worse than either one of these two men? Again, God does not like what we do, but God never stops loving us. And the only way to prove it is for you to come back to God and receive his love. When you do, the Bible tells us in 1 John chapter 1, verse 9, when we confess our sins to God, then he forgives us. He's true to his promises. He's never lied and never failed. The Bible said he will not only forgive us, but he will cleanse us from all of our unrighteousness, our uncleanliness. And each time we come to him, over and over and over and over, when God looks at us and sees our hearts and knows we mean it, that we're sorry, God forgives us again and again and again. You got to read that for yourself, because it's so important for you to understand how much God really loves you and how he forgives you and how he wants a personal relationship with you. Now, evil wants to keep us from having a personal relationship with God. Why? Because when we have a personal relationship with God, we find it is easier for us to make good decisions instead of bad decisions, to do right versus wrong when we have a personal relationship with God. When we have a personal relationship with God, it is easier for us to focus on our own problems so that we can find a solution to them. God is able to speak to us directly when we have a personal relationship with him. So don't delay. Now, ask God to help you to have a personal relationship with him. It makes no difference whether you've never talked to God, never really known God, or whether you've been sitting in a sanctuary somewhere worshiping God for years. There are many of you right now who have guilt and personal condemnation because we feel that God does not really love us. He loves you. It makes no difference. It makes no difference who you are, what you've been doing, what has happened to you, it makes no difference. God loves you, and he wants you to be close to him. Just say this to him: Lord, I want to walk with you. I want you to forgive me for all that I have done wrong. Hold my life in your hands. Lead me in the right way. Give me a closer walk and relationship with you. And Lord, when I fall, pick me back up. Keep me and save me. And he will hear you, and he'll do that. And he'll be happier with you because he loves you already. This is the pathway to victory for each and every day and the rest of your life. Talk to God. He's waiting to hear just from you. God bless you. See you next time on Understanding with Pastor Harris.